Welcome to the channel. Here, we read the interesting lore books found in the Elder Scrolls series. Today's is the third in a 4-part series, Warrior. Have an idea for one you'd like to hear? Drop me a comment and let me know. Let's get started. Warrior by Revan. The third chapter of the Adventures of Eslaf Errol. This is the third book in a 4-book series. If you have not read the first 2 books, Beggar and Thief, you would be well advised to do so. Suabud Errol did not know much of his past, nor did he care to. As a child, he had lived in Errolgard, but the kingdom was very poor, and taxes were, as a result, very high. He was too young to manage his abundant inheritance, but his servants, fearing that their master would be ruined, moved him to Jallenheim. No one knew why that location was picked. Some old maid, long dead now, had thought it was a good place to raise a child. No one else had a better idea. There may have been children with a more pampered, more spoiled existence than Suabod, but that is doubtful. As he grew, he understood that he was rich, but he had nothing else. No family, no social position, no security at all. Loyalty, he found out on more than one occasion, cannot truly be bought. Knowing that he had but one asset, a vast fortune, he was determined to protect it and, if possible, increase it. Some otherwise perfectly nice people are greedy, but Suibod was that rare accident of nature or breeding who has no other interest but acquiring and hoarding gold. He was willing to do anything to increase his fortune. Most recently, he had begun secretly hiring mercenaries to attack desirable properties and then buying them when no one wanted to live there anymore. The attacks would then of course cease, and Suabod would have profitable land, which he had purchased for a song. It had begun small with a few farms, but recently he had begun a more ambitious campaign. In north-central Skyrim, there is an area called the Alto, which is of unique geographical interest. It is a dormant volcanic valley, surrounded on all sides by glaciers, so the earth is hot from the volcano, but the constant water drizzle and air is frigid. A grape called Jazbay grows there comfortably, and everywhere else in Tamriel, it withers and dies. The strange vineyard is privately owned, and the wine produced from it thus rare and extremely expensive. It is said that the Emperor needs the permission of the Imperial Council to have a glass of it once a year. To harass the owner of the Alto into selling his land cheap, Suabod had to hire more than a few mercenaries. He had to hire the finest private army in Skyrim. Suabod did not like spending money, but he had agreed to pay the general of the army, a woman called Lekifdra, a gem the size of an apple. It had not been given to her yet. Payment was to be delivered on the success of the mission, but he had trouble sleeping knowing he was going to give up such a prize. He always slept during the day, so he could watch his storehouse by night when he knew thieves were about. This brings us up to the moment when, after a fitful sleep, Suabod woke up at about noon and surprised a thief in his bedroom. The thief was Eslaf. Eslaf had been contemplating a leap from the window, 100 feet down, into the branches of a tree beyond the walls of the fortified palace, and a tumble into a sack of hay. Anyone who has ever attempted such a feat will testify that it takes some concentration and nerve to do such a thing. When he saw that the rich man sleeping in the room had awakened, both left him, and Eslaf slipped behind a tall, ornamental shield on display to wait for Suabod to go back to sleep. Suabod did not go back to sleep. He had heard nothing, but could feel someone in the room with him. He stood up and began pacing the room. Suabod paced and gradually decided that he was imagining things. No one was there. His fortune was safe and secure. He was returning to his bed when he heard a clunk. Turning around, he saw the gem, the one he was to give to Lekiftra on the floor of the Atmoran cavalry shield. A hand reached out from behind the shield and grabbed it up. "Thief!" Suabod cried out, grabbing a jeweled Akaviri katana from the wall and lunging at the shield. The fight between Eslaf and Suabod will not go down in the annals of great duels. Suabod did not know how to use a sword, and Eslaf was no expert at blocking with a shield. It was clumsy, it was awkward. Suabod was furious, but was psychologically incapable of using the sword in any way that could damage its fine filigree, reducing its market value. Eslaf kept moving, dragging the shield with him, trying to keep it between him and the blade, which is, after all, the most essential part of any block. Suabod screamed in frustration as he struck the shield, bumping its way across the room. He even tried negotiating with the thief, explaining that the gem was promised to a great warrior named Lekiftra, and if he would give it back, Suabod would happily give him something else in return. Eslaf was not a genius, but he did not believe that. By the time Suabod's guards came to the bedroom in response to their master's calls, he had succeeded in backing the shield into a window. They fell on the shield, having considerably more expertise with their swords than Suabod did, but they discovered that there was no one behind it. Eslaf had leapt out the window and escaped. As he ran heavily through the streets of Jallenheim, making jingling noises from the gold coins in his pocket, and feeling the huge gem chafe where he had hidden it, Eslaf did not know where he should go next. He knew only that he could never go back to that town, and he must avoid this warrior named Lekiftra, who had claims on the jewel. Eslaf Errol's story is continued in the book King. Thanks for listening. If you like listening to the lore of the Elder Scrolls, here's a couple other videos you may like too. See you next time.